dear students, thank you for joining the AKtU MOOCs lecture. So, we are learning about immunity, how our immune system is actually working, and the various products like vaccine, antiserums are associated with our immune therapies. So, today another interesting thing I am going to teach you, that is storage condition and stability of official vaccines. So, in my previous lecture you have seen how you can make your own vaccine. I have also that is told you that how you can make antiserum and what are the various immune therapies. So, today I will tell you how you can store your all those vaccines. So, what are the things I am going to discuss? I will be discussing with you, just a second, let me just make the ink. I will be discussing with you. First, I will tell you the universal immunization program, storage, what are the unit, then how we will manage the inventory, that is how you can store the vaccines correctly, you can or what are the equipments you can use for monitoring the temperature, when you will be take the action, and cold chain flow charts, and most importantly storage of COVID-19 vaccine, because in 21st century when we are learning at that time the biggest issue is COVID-19. So, that is why though it is not a part of the syllabus, but I think you should know about the vaccine. So, let me first tell you universal immunization program. I hope all of you have seen these kinds of very interesting pictures, and you also got a lots of vaccines in your childhood when you got some vaccines through oral vaccines. So, you also got some vaccines through injection in your hand, you might have taken in your during your childhood days. So, what is this and how it was actually evolved? This is actually called universal immunization program. So, it was launched by Government of India in 1985, very important. Government of India on those days there was a lots of challenges in case of diseases. So, that is why government decided that we have to stop the spreading of those diseases. What is the solution? The solution is vaccine. That is why they have started this campaign or this program called universal immunization program. It became a part of child survival and safe motherhood program in 1992, and is currently one of the key areas under National Rural Health Mission since 2005. Okay. So, you must see the years 1985, 1992 and 2005. Till the date this that is campaign is that is running by government, including some state government in their respective states. So, this program or this campaign, you can say, it is covering a lots of diseases. Okay, 12 diseases like tuberculosis, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, then poliomyelitis, measles, hepatitis B. We are so much successful to curb the growth of poliomyelitis, including some other diseases like diarrhea, Japanese encephalitis, rubella, pneumonia and pneumococcal diseases. These are 12 diseases. If I tell you more, in this program, in another this program, the vaccine is actually provided all the citizens free. Oral polio vaccine. Amitabh Bachchan ji, or those all the that is those days, he used to appear on TV and he used to request every people that please visit in near vaccination center and take polio vaccine. Yeah. So, and it was actually given free, okay, no cost, government actually taking to the people from that is a government fund, government actually given that vaccine, and the success is actually too high that for example, diseases like polio, I do not know in your entire life if you have ever heard in recent times in last 10 or 20 years anybody in India got infected by polio, and polio is almost eradicated in all over the world, you can say. So, the other edition of in UIP, universal immunization program, the way of the inactivated that is polio vaccines, rotavirus vaccines and measles rubella vaccines. 4 new vaccines have included that is introduced injectable polio vaccine as an adult vaccines against Japanese encephalitis and pneumococcal that is a conjugate vaccine. You see Japanese encephalitis few years back, including recent times also. In northern part of India, it is a very big problem, Japanese encephalitis. But if you see very properly in all over the country, So, this diseases, this Japanese encephalitis, it is not actually spreading too much. Why? The answer is relying here. We should be thankful to Government of India for doing such a great initiative to save the lives, save the lives of people. So, now the question is storage of vaccine. So, you are so much happy that your government is doing great job to save the life of the common people by giving the vaccines at free of cost. Now, you have to store the vaccines, hai na? Because in recent times after COVID-19, you have seen that lots of vaccines are actually get wasted. Hai na? You have seen lots of vaccines are actually that is these are wasted because of the misplaced or mistaken done by the health professionals in the storage. They have failed to maintain the temperature and other things, and that is why it was this vaccine was lost its property, its color changed or something was happened. Then the higher officials said that no, do not give this vaccine. So, the storage is very important. So, here is a typical diagram I have tried to brought for you. So, this is like a simple our fridge. This is the maximum temperature, is the minimum temperature, is the maximum temperature. So, if the cold chain is not properly maintained, vaccine potency may be lost, resulting in useless vaccine supply. In my previous lecture, when I was discussing with you various national and our Indian or international vaccines like Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, I was actually discussing with you. I have told you that those vaccines, foreign vaccines like US based mRNA vaccines, these vaccines are not so much successful in those hot countries or Mediterranean or you can see equatorial countries because of the temperature, high temperature and it is very difficult to maintain the temperature. Equatorial countries or Mediterranean countries or countries like India, our temperature is so much high, and this is very difficult to maintain proper air conditioning and proper that is a storage in cooling capacity. That is why it is a big challenge. So, if you develop a vaccine, you should be careful during the design that you need to store the vaccine in a particular temperature, and you have to maintain this temperature. Otherwise, whatever the hard work you have done in vaccine development, your entire hard work will be get wasted, money will be wasted, and there will be no utility, and there are chances this vaccine might be become after mutation due to temperature. If any conformational changes may happen, it might be become a big health hazards, or it might be become so dangerous. If you discard in a certain place, then there are chances it might be become some toxic substance. It might be harmful for some species are in our nature, bacteria, virus, whatever the present in the soil, it might be harmful for them also. So, that is why storage of vaccine is very, very important. Now, preference, where you will be that is prefer. So, you can either use the lab or pharmacy grade unit. I have not given any picture because in previous slide I have mentioned. So, otherwise you can use the standalone household refrigerator or freezer unit, or combination household refrigerator or freezer around it using the only refrigerator. This is the preference. I will suggest you may follow this, okay, whatever in previous here I have shown you these things I am actually trying to tell you. So, also you have to that is manage the vaccines inventory, and then you have to store the vaccines correctly. There is a certain process how you can store, because it is not a like food you have opened your refrigerator and kept. No, this is not the way. I will tell you how. You have to also monitor the temperature. You have to take action when the temperature is out of range. Now, at first I have mentioned to you the manage vaccine inventory. How will the maintain the vaccines inventory? So, review your vaccines inventory on a monthly basis with each vaccines ordered to avoid that is over ordering. So, if you are running a pharmacy shop, or if you are storing your vaccines as a warehouse, so you have to understand, you have to check your inventory in the monthly basis, so that over ordering should be avoided. If you check your stock, both the private and MNVFC vaccines, mark them differently. You have to separate, you have to mark all those things. Then check the vaccine expiration date, rotate your vaccine supply by placing the vaccines in earliest expiration date in front of the other vaccines. That is why I have mentioned in my previous slides that the how you can that is store vaccines correctly here. So, you have to see some vaccines will be, see the difference between normal small molecule based drugs and vaccine, the big difference is that vaccines are actually having big molecules, their molecular weight will be much more higher than compared to normal our that is drugs like paracetamol, ibuprofen, they are very small molecule. Covishield, Covaxin, these are very big molecule. So, that is why their expiry date or their shelf life will be much more lesser than the small molecules. Okay. So, you should store the vaccines in such a manner, so that those vaccines will be that is get expired in earlier time, they should be come to the first. Then manage that is how you can manage, then transfer the vaccines, you will not use before the expiry date to another VCFC site to avoid wastage. Then call VFC program if you are unable to find another VFC site that can take your vaccines, and make sure that you have enough space to store vaccine for the back to school rush for flu season. And in case of store vaccine correctly, let me also tell you, apart from the storing based on their expiry date, that place the temperature monitoring device probe into the center of the refrigerator or freezer with the vaccines. Yes, temperature monitoring device, you have to install one temperature monitoring device. There are chances that the refrigerators own temperature displaying unit, it might be not working properly, and you are believing that yes, it is working correct. So, there are chances at the that is center of the refrigerator, the temperature might be some different. So, that is why at the center of the refrigerator you have to set up one temperature monitoring device. You should see that temperature monitoring device, the what is the temperature in a periodically manner. Use open ice, open triads, wires basket and other uncovered container to organize this vaccine. I have shown you one picture, yeah, this is the picture. You can follow this process to save all those vaccines. Let me, yeah. Yeah, you can follow this process. Then you should clearly label each container with vaccine type, and you should avoid the storing look-alike or sound like vaccines next to each other. For example, TDAP and TDP, you can see these two vaccines, they are so much similar by their name, okay, but these are different vaccines. So, you should avoid, for example, hepatitis A and hepatitis B vaccine. So, you should not keep in a such a manner, so that you may get confused between their name, and keep vaccines in their original packing. So, here is a simple that is a diagram where I am trying to tell you that during storing refrigerator and your freezer. So, proper refrigerator temperature. So, if you aim for 40 degree Fahrenheit or 5 degree centigrade. So, yeah. So, there are lots of vaccines like these vaccines, hepatitis A, B, HIV, these vaccines, Japanese encephalitis, all these various diseases vaccines you can store in this range. Okay. If it is too warm, your vaccine will be completely get denatured, it will not work, it will not show any kinds of its therapeutic activity. But in case of these kinds of diseases, okay, for these kinds of diseases MMR, MMRV, varicella, for these diseases you need the temperature range in 50 degree centigrade to minus 50 degree centigrade to minus 15 degree centigrade, very that is low temperature. So, you have to understand that in one refrigerator you cannot store all these vaccines, or if you store you have to maintain this temperature. Okay. Now, if I tell you more, the store vaccines in the middle of the point, already I have mentioned this part, and if I tell you more, the keep water bottles or jugs in the refrigerator and frozen water in the bottle to mark them, do not drink. There is a need why we should keep some bottles in that particular that area, because you can take the temperature of those bottles also. Okay. And routinely you may check the door whether it is not shut. What you should not do or what you should do. So, clearly label, you may see the label designated space of each vaccines, avoid localite whatever I have mentioned, and you should keep vaccines 2 or 3 inch away from the wall and other boxes, and post do not unplug the sticker in the storage unit and electrical outlets. There was some incident happened regarding this point. I will not mention the name of the state or anything. In our India, in one vaccination center, they have failed to maintain the temperature or other things, and after that when the higher authorities went there, they have found that no, it was not mentioned, it was not maintained properly, and they have said they do not give the vaccine, it was wastage. You should place probe in the center of the unit. The probe means temperature monitoring device, and check the temperature and logbooks and fill the water bottles and whatever I mentioned. So, here is a picture, you can see whatever I was actually mentioning you, how you can keep. Here you can see the water bottles, here is the temperature monitoring device, here are the various vaccines are available. Okay. So, another thing, why we should place the water bottle here, from here this area, the that is a cool air is actually coming. So, that is why in this area you should not place your these things vaccines, you should keep only water bottles. Okay. So, you can see here this, from this area our this thing is actually coming, that is cool air is actually coming. So, that is why you may place some water bottles here, and for example, this for these kinds of diseases, MMR and other kinds of diseases, you need 0 degree Fahrenheit. Okay. At the bottom also, at the bottom there is no cooling or that is a cold air vent, that is why we have also placed water, you can see. Okay. Basically, you are trying to maintain the temperature. Okay. The temperature window, whatever I was actually showing you here, the temperature window could be maintained. Okay. And after discussing this part, let me also tell you something about the temperature monitoring device. We simply call it as a TMD. So, an accurate temperature history that reflects the accurate vaccines temperature, critical for the protecting of your vaccines, and investing in relying device is less expensive than replacing vaccines wastage. You see, the price of a vaccine is definitely very high, but the price of a temperature monitoring device is not very high. So, that is why you as a pharmacist or you as a government officials, you should spend money to buy temperature monitoring device just to check the temperature, so that your vaccines should not be get that is wasted. You see, this is very important. Why I am telling you again and again, because recent times you also have seen side effects, and lots of people that is they have faced side effect of the vaccines. Do you think all the vaccines actual vaccines is showing side effect? There are chances the vaccines was not stored properly in correct temperature, there might be some changes in the vaccine structure, that is why might be showing some side effect, there are chances. Pharmacovigilance officers are working in our country, they are trying to identify the reason. So, you need to use the temperature monitoring device, and you have to monitor the temperature in a very periodically manner. You have to see how the temperature is increasing and decreasing, and you have to routinely monitor. You should have a log book, you should see. So, if the temperature is actually going to out of control, at that time what you will do? You should move vaccines immediately if refrigerator is actually less than your desired temperature. Here I have mentioned 2 degree centigrade for our example, whatever I am actually showing you. Then you determine the cost if possible, why it is actually happening. You can take the help of the thermostat if it is necessary. You can notify your manager or vaccine coordinator and monitor the temperature if temperature does not stable in within 30 minutes. And if it is out of control, then you have to see the parameters whatever they have mentioned in the product information sheet. If it is there is some color change or any kinds of that is precipitation is happening, higher authorities will you may inform, already you may inform your higher authorities, they will take the action, either they will discard those vaccines and those vaccines will be not taken for the given to the patients. Temperature excursions. So, temperature excursion or inappropriate storage of vaccines condition for any vaccines requirement is in the immediate action. Any temperature reading outside recommended ranges in the manufacture package inserts consider temperature excursion. Here is a cold chain flow chart. So, you can see you have to prepare the vaccines, then you have to distribute the vaccines, and then when it will arrive at the provider facility, and they have to store this vaccine and vaccine administration. this is the process how from manufacturing to administration, how it is actually happening, but every space, every that is a stage, you have to maintain the temperature. You have to maintain the temperature. If the cold chain is not properly maintained, vaccine potency may lost and resulting in the useless of vaccine supply. Now, let me tell you some that is a recently popular vaccines, whatever you, me and every Indians and whole the world people are taking because of the COVID-19. Now, you as a student of pharmaceutical sciences, you should know how you can store COVID-19 vaccines. So, in my previous lecture I have told you that types of COVID-19 vaccine or what are the different COVID-19 vaccines are manufactured by being manufactured by various pharmaceutical companies. So, Pfizer and BioNTech vaccines and Moderna's vaccines, these are actually RNA based vaccines, 2 doses are required. So, for that minus 80 degree to 60 degree temperature is actually required, and for Moderna's vaccine, Moderna's mRNA vaccine minus 25 degree to 15 degree centigrade is actually required. If I tell you about Oxford AstraZeneca or Sputnik or Johnson Johnson vaccine, so Oxford AstraZeneca's, these are already also all viral vaccines, a viral vector. Okay, these are all actually viral vector. So, for Oxford AstraZeneca based vaccines, 2 doses are actually required. Temperature is very good, 2 to 8 degree centigrade. We can handle this temperature. Okay, we can maintain this temperature. For Sputnik vaccine, 2 doses you have to give, but the temperature is that is in liquid form, if it is available, minus 18.5, and if it is dry form, then you can keep it in 2 to 8 degree centigrade. That is why in our India this dry form actually people are preferring because of the easiest handling of in case of temperature. For Johnson & Johnson vaccine, you need only 1 dose, and this is also very fine, 2 to 8 degree centigrade for 3 months. China's Sinovac and Sinopharm's vaccine and our Indian Covaxin, these are actually inactivated vaccines. In all these cases, you have to take 2 doses, and the best part what I have liked most, 2 to 8 degree centigrade. We can manage, we can maintain this temperature. Novavax vaccines, it is also again 2 doses you have to take, and again 2 to 8 degree centigrade. So, you have seen in maximum vaccines of COVID-19, you have to maintain 2 to 8 degree centigrade, except only Pfizer, BioNTech's and Moderna's vaccine. Okay. So, this is the something about the storage of COVID-19 vaccine. Here I have tried to show you another very interesting picture where I have tried to summarize. So, this is the that is temperature, and this is the window. So, diphtheria vaccine, Johnson Johnson vaccine and most of the other vaccines including Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine and other vaccines, you can see maximum of the vaccines are actually stored in this range, okay. Only except this mRNA based vaccines, we need very low temperature. Okay. This is the temperature in so that is minus 100 degree to 50 degree centigrade, and these are the all the various vaccines. So, in nutshell we can say that we have to maintain in this temperature range almost 0 to that is 2 to 8 degree centigrade. So, whatever I was actually telling you, I have summarized all those things that you have to maintain this temperature, and for 31 days you have to maintain. For AstraZeneca vaccine again 2 to 8 degree, whatever I have shown you in my previous slide, same thing I have just written in the written form. So, that is it from my side. So, I hope if you work on this vaccine, you should give more preference to the vaccine storage, because you see my dear students, it is not a very easy task to develop a vaccine, and it is not an easy task to bring a vaccine to the market. Only if you some mistake done by you, if you do some mistake, then the vaccine will lost its property. That is a big problem for us. So, that is why you should be very much serious during the storage of vaccine. You should not do any kinds of irregularities in terms of vaccine storage. So, thank you all of you, God bless you all. We shall meet in our next lecture. Thank you.